Sorina Moga. You might recognize me from when I represented Doveland in year 12 with my song Starlight Disco, and I'm so glad to be here in Melun at the DTR studio for the opening ceremony of what might just be the biggest ever edition of Doveland Decides. That's right, it's Doveland Decides 10, All-Star Edition, and this is the opening ceremony where I'm going to be interviewing all of the acts who will be performing for us this Doveland Decides. So the first act we have here is Kezia, and she will be singing Aiga. So hello Kezia, can you tell us a little more about yourself and your song?
Terve! Mio olen Kezia Gasintin Karjalas, mutta elän Kulumos.
I've been brushing up on my Karelian lately, since I've been wanting to connect more with my roots. I grew up in a Russian-speaking household, but it's been easy for me to learn English since I was a kiddo because I always listened to lots of great tunes in English. However, as you might know from my last appearance in Petrofest, I've been studying Karelian and of course Dovish as well, especially since I live here now. It's such an honor to have been selected as a Doveland Decides All-Star, especially because Turn It Up, Tune It Out, my last song, flopped so hard in the semi. I was so worried about my career, but then KTK reached out to me, let me participate in Petrofest 2, and what do you know, I bounced right back. Even though I didn't win it, I didn't come in last, and that's really an achievement. Even people in Doveland were interested in Armatoi. It's been getting pretty decent airplay on Dovish radio stations these days, and ever since I first performed it at Petrofest. A lot of folks say I was robbed, both in Doveland Decides and Petrofest, so I'm glad DTR wanted to see me redeem myself and invited me back to participate. So here's the scoop on what I'll be singing. You might recognize Aiga as a Dovish word, right? Well, it's actually the word for time, both in Dovish and South Karelian, the dialect spoken in Sulajärvi, where I lived before moving to Kungsberg. And that's what my song is all about, time. I always found time amazing, the way it passes by in the exact same order each year, the way the seasons change, and how it's so, predictable. Yet at the same time, it can be pretty unpredictable as well, since you never know what could happen tomorrow, and some days it feels like it's creeping by so slowly, whereas other days it feels like it's speeding by. Sometimes time can be on your side, and other times it feels like there isn't enough time in the day to get everything you want done. But what makes this song stand out, though, is the fact that I won't just be singing in English, but Dovish and Karelian as well. You might remember how Turn It Up, Tune It Out was only in English, and Armatoi was mostly Karelian with some Dovish from me. But the thing is, at the time of recording Armatoi, I actually didn't know a lot of Karelian or Dovish. I was just singing the lyrics I was given. However, between then and now, I've learned more Karelian and more Dovish, enough to try and use them in a song. And I can't thank some of the wonderful talents of Doveland who I've met over the years, namely Delia of Nereid and Alfred of Katrin Layakan, for helping me with writing the Dovish parts of my lyrics, and speaking Dovish in general too, enough for their help. Delia's brother Raul, who produced Nereid's music, also came up with such a great instrumental for my tune, with my usual EDM sound mixed of some accordions and flutes like you usually hear in Dovish and Karelian traditional music. I can't wait to perform this, and I hope you'll love Aiga too. Maraken kaikis! Well, thank you, Kezia! And next we have Minana. They will be performing their song Zuzun Batiki Dizzy, so welcome, girls! Thank you. I'm Anya, the main vocalist of Minana. Firstly, I want to thank everyone who supported us with our debut Doveland Decides song, Favorite Song. The fact that it didn't get into the final, yet managed to represent our country at a straight 15 is historic, isn't it? All of us are so happy this song achieved the success it did, but unfortunately, not everything can be happy. My relationship, what I wrote Favorite Song about back then, hasn't really going as well as it did back then, so I thought we could continue the story and, pick up where Favorite Song left off, with a song about the current state of my relationship.
I'm Malika, and I work closely with Anya to write the lyrics of what we'll be singing this Doveland Decides, Zuzun Batiki, which is Baducano for dizzy or confused.
The three of us have all been wanting to return to Doveland Decides someday, and we agreed that we'd include all three of our languages, English, Dovish, and Paducano, in our song if we ever return. And since DTR reached out to us and asked us to make a new song for Doveland Decides All-Stars, we knew the time was now. So, Zuzumbatiki isn't as much of a happy song as Favorite Song was, considering how my relationship has been going these days. My boyfriend has been really confusing me these days. I don't know why, but it feels like he's uncomfortable around me yet trying to hide it. Yet whenever I try to be honest with him, he acts like nothing is wrong. I don't know whether it's the right time for us to break up or not, and I'm conflicted as to whether or not I should just keep giving him second chances or just call it quits now. He makes lots of excuses like, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed so my head isn't in the right place, or I just had a bad day today. But it feels like he's lying. When I'm around him, I don't feel quite right or as happy as I used to be back when we first started dating. Yet at the same time, when we're apart, I long for him. I want to be around him, cuddling him. It's just all so dizzying, so confusing for me. So I want to get my feelings out in this song. Hi, I don't know if I introduced myself yet, but I'm Reya, and I've also been in several relationships before, and I can relate to this feeling of confusion as to the true feelings of your significant other and what you should do as well. We hope that the message of Zuzumbatiki shines loud and clear in our song, and if you've been in a relationship like this before too, you can really connect to this one. I also hope that someday I'll find a new favorite song, whether my boyfriend really does change for the better, or we end up breaking up and I find someone new. All three of us worked hard to make the instrumental of Zuzumbatiki a memorable one as well, just like favorite song. Even though this is far from our happiest song, we hope you'll enjoy it. I'm especially proud to be bringing Paducano, my native language, to the Dovish stage.
All right, thank you so much, girls. And next is Jet Bridge, and they will be singing Quality Control. So hello, welcome Jet Bridge. Tell us a little about yourself and your song.
What's good? This is Jet Bridge coming to you live from the opening ceremony of Doveland Decides 10 All-Stars. I remember when I first signed up for Doveland Decides many years back with my tune Beyond the Rainbow, and I was so motivated to, jet to the final. But at the same time, I didn't really know what I was doing, and looking back, it's far from my best work. It was the first ever original song I released publicly anyway, so I made it my priority to improve my songwriting and find a new producer. I've released a few new singles since then with different producers, but I didn't really find one who I clicked with until now, and together we truly made what I think is my best song to date, Quality Control. I originally wanted to be, a synth pop star, but then I realized my sound was better with hints of rock as well. So over time, I've been embracing that to really develop a unique style that blends synth pop and rock, and my current producer really nails it. Quality Control is my most rockish song yet, and I think the sound does really do a good job at highlighting my message. So, Quality Control is a song about societal norms, specifically the toxic ones, the ones that make people uncomfy and awkward. Lots of people don't realize their toxicity, no matter how normal, quote-unquote, they are. They've been so ingrained into society when they never needed to be in the first place. And the fact that people who don't adhere to these norms are regarded as outcasts in society is just sad. I'll be singing about how people shouldn't have to make choices that they don't agree with or do things that they don't want to do just because it's acceptable to the rest of society. And people's choices to not adhere to toxic norms that they don't agree with shouldn't be treated like they're the worst things in the world. Stuff like forced affection, forcing all girls to wear makeup, making awkward small talk. I think the world would be so much happier if social norms that can wreck folks' mental health just didn't exist. So what if I don't live up to the toxic standards you set for me and expect me to live up to, even if it means I'll be miserable and not feel like myself? What's more important should be my happiness and well-being, right? The lyrics of this song are super personal to me, but the message is universal. I hope it resonates with all of you too, and let's hope I can jet to the final this time around.
Wow, that is a lot of energy and confidence you have that I really wish I did. Well, thank you so much, Jet Bridge. And next we have an act composed of two prior Doveland Decides talents, It's the combination of Limelight and Basia and Masia that created the supergroup Perfect Square, who will be performing Kurma Komen. So, terveludsam Perfect Square.
Jøva öde, Klisinenlab. I don't know if you remember us from Doveland Decides 5, but we're Limelight. I'm Lima.
And I'm Svetlana. We're sisters, and we're both not just Dovish, but Livonian in our heritage as well. If you remember Doveland Decides 5, we sang our song Live On in Dovish and Livonian about our grandmother, who's getting very old. She's actually over 100 right now. Thankfully, she's still alive to this day. Tienu Tuvadan. Unfortunately, we came last in the semi, but we're not upset as we're still glad our song got lots of love. We even still get kind comments today, and one time a granny sent us a letter all in Livonian about how much she loved our song too. Remember how Doveland Decides 4 had 3 semifinals? Well, my twin sister Masia and I also came last in our semi. Maybe we shouldn't have opted for punk rock in our Doveland Decides debut, especially because we're so comfy with singing lots of different genres. We thought we'd do a rock song since there has never been too much rock at Doveland Decides, but it backfired. So this time we decided to collab with these lovely ladies because we have so much in common. Not just being sisters who came last in our semis at Doveland Decides. Plus, we love folk music, which they excel in singing. Oh, thank you. So, as Masia implied, the 4 of us will be singing a folk tune this edition as a brand new unit called Perfect Square. Of course, we chose this name because there's 4 of us, 2 groups of 2 sisters, but at the same time, we feel like all 4 of us are sisters, really. So, it's like we're the 4 sides of a perfect square. Get it? The song we'll be singing is all in Dovish. It's called Kurma Komen, which means where I come from in English. It's about showing love to the place you come from and how where you grow up shapes who you are. Lima and I are from the northern Savigur region of the island, which is far more rural and spread out than the south. So for us, life was always a bit slow, kinda laid back. And in our town, it kinda felt like everybody knew each other. Meanwhile, Masia and I might live in Tilji now, which isn't part of the island, but we both grew up in the southern Napasu part of the island, where it's way more busy and urbanized. I mean, Melun being right on the southern coast is to blame, isn't it? Even though we didn't grow up in Melun proper, it feels like everything in Napasu is so close to each other, and you're always meeting new people who you never even knew existed. There's also lots of new opportunities around every corner, but at the same time it's way more fast-paced and it can be a bit hectic because, it's so busy. But even though our experiences in Doveland growing up were so different, the entire country has its own culture, rich in the mixed heritage of its ancestors, and all of Doveland feels connected. We're so different but all the same. And we're proud to be Dovish. We believe that wherever Dovish people may go, they still carry a piece of Doveland with them. We know this song is about Doveland, but we want this song to inspire people all over the world to think about where you came from and how it has shaped you into who you are. After all, we all have a place we call home, right? Thank you so much. See you later for the big show. Nemi's Bell. Thank you so much, Perfect Square. I'm looking so forward to hearing this bit of Dovish culture since, I'm not originally from Doveland. I was born in a black hole and I moved to Romania where I found my home. But ever since I represented Doveland that one year, I've been becoming increasingly interested in the culture, so I'm looking very forward to this. And our next act is one that really surprised me because, they haven't really been seen on the DTR stage since the first edition. It's Pēter and Luciana, and they will be singing Kurbulate.
Holy moly, there sure are a lot of new faces here. But then again, Lucy and I haven't participated in Doveland Decides since the very first edition.
That's right. I still remember when we competed, it was such a different time. I still remember how we wanted to have a big Eurovision-themed wedding in Luxembourg and invite all the participants of EV10 if we won Doveland Decides and then went on to winning Eurovision that year. And then we decided to just do that the year after in Thessaloniki, except we didn't invite any of the participants.
I do still remember how Stormzy and the brothers tried to crash our wedding. What a time that was.
Let's not derail this conversation too much. Anyways, we can't believe DTR invited us back to be the All-Stars representing the very first edition of Doveland Decides, especially because Sirenia won the grand final by a landslide. We're huge fans of her and her music, but we didn't stand a chance against her. It's an honor that DTR believed we should return, especially because even though it was only the first ever Doveland Decides, that year was so strong.
That won't stop us though. We're coming at this edition of Doveland Decides with full force, with a song that's personal to us, but with a bit of a different sound than Draman Tusatko. That was a ballad, but this is a fun tropical dancey tune with little Latin American and Balkan inspirations, especially because I'm half Albanian and she's half Uruguayan. So I wanted to honour our heritage. And of course, I'll be playing the piano in this one like I always do.
The title of this song is Kurbulate, which means bubble tea in Dovish. Have you ever drank bubble tea before? It's been getting pretty popular these days all over the world. But for us, it's more than just a fun thing to drink. If it weren't for bubble tea, we may have never even met.
Our city, Feriestedo, was the first place in Doveland where a bubble tea shop opened, and we had been going there for years. That's where our story began.
Well, technically, we first met on the internet in a Eurovision fan group and realized we had a lot of similar tastes in music. Then eventually, we found out we were both from Doveland. We had wanted to meet up in person someday and agreed to plan it all out, but something almost miraculous happened before we even had the chance. I was at the bubble tea shop one day, struggling to poke the straw into the lid. So much of the tea came out of the cup that I was only left with half.
I had noticed Luciana was wearing a Point Noir t-shirt, and that's when I realised she was a Eurovision fan like me. I asked her what her name was by chance, and she said Luciana, and that's when I realised she was a girl I had met online. I decided to buy her a second bubble tea to replace the one she had spilled so much of, and that right there was her very first date in person. So we've made it kind of a tradition to always go to that shop whenever we can, and when we travel we seek out bubble tea shops too. It's like our signature drink now.
So, Kurbulate is a song all in Dovish, about how we bonded over bubble tea and how we want to stay together. If we leave each other sometime in the future, which is unlikely, but I'll admit sometimes I do have nightmares about it, we definitely won't ever be able to drink it again because of how much it reminds each of us of each other. You know how when you drink bubble tea, you're sucking the pearls up through your straw until there aren't any more left? The lyrics of this song use that as a metaphor to describe the moments passing by as we, yes, we, sing about how we won't let the pearls get sucked away and savor every moment.
I'm so excited that the two of us will sing together this Doveland Decides, as opposed to me just playing the piano. We hope you'll enjoy Kurbulate and that we can make it to the grand final of this edition too.
Alright, thank you so much, Pēter and Luciana. That is such an interesting story. And we will be right back for the second half of the Doveland Decides 10 All-Stars opening ceremony after the commercial break. See you soon!